This is the Fair Fight Initiative, and we're walking step by step through the broken components of our criminal injustice system. We've talked about arrests, we've talked about jail, we've talked about cash bond. And in each of those cases, incrementally, they build to a critical tool of prosecutors and, frankly, judges to keep the system moving, because the system is not built to handle the number of arrests, the number of bonds, the number of people in jail that we have built it to absorb. So they use the plea bargain to try and keep this system moving. And in each case, when a person is arrested, and that simply could already cost them their job, or at least put a permanent stain on their record, when they are assigned a bond that they may or may not be able to afford, and when they are placed in the deplorable conditions of America's jails, they have every incentive to listen, David Utter, when a prosecutor shows up and offers a plea bargain, whether this person committed the crime they're charged with or not.
Yeah, it is the lifeblood of America's criminal justice system. Way over 90% of all cases, of all people arrested and charged with a crime, end up pleading guilty to something. Now, a lot of times it's because they don't have the funds for an adequate lawyer, an effective lawyer. Most people are represented by public defenders. Public defenders have way too many cases and they're not paid enough. They don't have low enough caseloads to really dig into a case to try to fight for their client. One of the things that we've been able to do with the Fair Fight Initiative is to hire criminal defense lawyers to step into the shoes of the public defender and actually effectively defend people. I'm reminded of a young man here in Georgia that was arrested and he was pulled over by state police. He was forced to stand on a pile of red ants. When he stepped away from the red ants, the cop said, "I told you to stand there," ended up charging him with obstruction of justice. The initial plea offer is 1 year probation. He's never been arrested before. This is a hardworking, young kid, happens to be a black man. Shocker here in Georgia, right? And the public defender said, "Look, this is a good deal. It's a year of probation. Don't worry about it." Fair Fight lawyers stepped in. We were able to defend him. The more we dug into the case, the more Fair Fight lawyers dug into the case, we determined that the dash cam that should always be present for every stop, every traffic stop, was gone. And so while we couldn't prove that his civil rights were violated, the state couldn't prove that he did anything wrong, and ultimately they dismissed the case because he had an effective lawyer pushing hard in his defense and never got convicted, never took a plea. That doesn't happen most of the time. Most people take a plea just because they want to get it over with, and their lawyer isn't able to really fight for them.
Because think of all the bricks in that wall that have already been built up against them, right? They were arrested. They had a maybe unnecessarily high cash bond placed on their release. They were put in a jail that was unbearable. And never mind that they didn't do what they were charged with doing. Facing those stakes, what would you do in those situations? Ask yourself as you're reading through this. We can, like you just described, David, put experienced attorneys into the shoes of overworked public defenders. And when the terms are right and when the conditions are right, we can move in and make systemic change, whether it's through a small case like that or through a pattern or at least continuing to show up that tells municipalities and tells police departments and tells prosecutors, if you keep doing this, we will keep coming back.